What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Killmark Collectors. It's Tuesday morning, which means we have our patch update for the week, and boy, is it a doozy. Now, normally I don't do patch videos or patch notes videos, but this one feels like a really big deal and one that I'm actually pretty excited about. So I want to give you guys a little bit of a heads up and walk through some of these very quickly. I'm going to apologize because we have concrete work going on behind me, and my wife is upstairs making a smoothie or something, and I have a meeting in 18 minutes, so we're going to make this really fast, and it's probably not going to be as polished as normal, but I apologize. So here we go. Now, starting off with the biggest thing that you guys are probably going to notice, there is going to be a new update for War Games. I think this is going to be really exciting because we get to finally see capitals in action. Now, the interesting thing here is that they are going to be, I don't know if they're going to be wrecks or if we're going to see the actual ships themselves. It just says that during the wreckage collection event, there's a new technology for ships, capital ships. So it sounds like the way that they're phrasing this, we're actually going to see capital ships in action. I don't know if we're going to get to fly them or if we're going to be fighting them like we kind of fight the haulers. I'm going to do a full video on this when it comes out tomorrow. So be sure to keep an eye out for that. Now, this is broken down into two separate events, and what it kind of looks like is that we have the capital ship event, and then we also then have a second event that's this almost a Concord Pass type of thing, where it seems like we have a basic event, and then we have the second one, which runs a little bit longer and is going to be available to purchase. Again, I've reached out to the devs to see kind of what the deal is with this. I'm hoping that it's not going to be as bad as you have to pay, $499 in order to be able to actually play. It's just kind of the reward cycle, kind of like the Concord passes, but we'll see as we get more. Now, the other big things here, we do have the team matchmaking function. We'll see if that makes it in the final edit. The big thing here is that you can fleet up with 4 people. You will be then matched against stronger opponents. I'm hoping that mostly means that you'll be matched with other people who are in a fleet as well. So I think that's a good update. We'll see. I know we've been asking for that for quite some time, so it seems like the devs have addressed a lot of the feedback that we've been giving. I know that they've also been asking about UI improvements and things like that in the content creator group. So overall, I think it sounds like they're really listening and they're actually addressing some feedback. The other two things here, the friendly fire lock warning and the AFK penalties. Again, I think these are great quality of life improvements for war games. I think they're vastly needed. I know that I've gotten really sick and I've stopped actually playing war games because I'm just tired of people just sitting AFK. So I'm really liking the fact that this is here. Now, in terms of the optimizations, we obviously do have the updated estimated prices. That's fine. A detailed rule is added to insurance contract screen explaining the mechanics for generating a contract. Now, this one is going to be very, very interesting because my biggest complaint with insurance is that it doesn't actually remove mods from the game, and therefore we end up with prices being suppressed. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how that contract generation actually works. I know that, again, there's some talk in the content creator group. I was actually getting ready to do a video about insurance, but because of this, I'm probably going to hold off because I think there could be some really interesting nuances here that we just didn't have visibility to beforehand. Now, the next thing, detailed numbers can be viewed by filtering the amount of stations in star charts. I don't know if this means that you can see like how many stations are actually in a system. I think that could be interesting for especially people who are out in Null and doing some PvP type of stuff. I'm personally still of a mixed opinion about having NPC stations in Null. It kind of defeats the purpose of SOV in a lot of ways, but it's also a really good way, and we know that it's not going anywhere, so we might as well be able to take advantage of it. So again, I kind of like that. Closing combat log detail screen. Okay, that's the maximum number of visits to a marketplace increased from 3 to 120. This is awesome in my opinion. I am so tired of opening a market, trying to figure out which mods I need, and then getting that notification that I have to wait. Quality of life improvement, really, really pumped about. Now, number 6, this one I am so excited, and that is that Null 6 systems can now have up to 1,500 people as opposed to 1,000. And this to me is huge because what it does is it means that we won't have any more fights, at least at the current numbers, the way that we did at 3F TAC, where it was capped at 1,000 people and we were having to kill pods in order to get more pilots in, taking DPS away from the ships that are actually fighting. I love this change. I understand why they have to cap the system. It's an IT resource constraint. Totally makes sense. But the ability for them to just increase this and just give us that little bit of extra space, I think is going to be huge. We're starting to see some bigger fights. We're starting to see some bigger alliances really jump into things. So I'm really, really excited to be able to remove that cap and remove that limitation so that the pilots can actually fight and play the way the game's supposed to be played. The number 7, and this one actually goes a little bit with, I think it was I think it was a different one further down. But number 7, anomaly messages display from a pirate detection array will only be visible to members of the same corporation. This makes sense to me. If you are in the same corp, you should only be able to see the pirate arrays and the bonuses that they give. It's kind of the whole point of SOV. It would be interesting if they could allow like an alliance to see it or something like that. But I think it will also help benefit the corporations because then suddenly groups can't just come in and be ratting without a member of the corp that actually drops SOV. So I think that this is a good one. I am going to be interested to see how this plays out and if you see people spreading accounts across more and filling up spots in corporations with alts and things like that. I hope that's not the case, but again, I could see this being abused. After the corporation, or after fitting a module, fitting another one will record the location of the last one. Don't really know what this one means. I'm guessing that it will just tell you that it put it in the hangar instead of in your ship so that you don't fly off with it like I've done many a time. Corp name and ticker reserved. This is basically just them saying that, hey, we've allowed you guys to use names that have been reserved previously, which is fine. Trade ships that have been assembled in the corp hangar under contract. Again, I think that's a good boost to indie players. And then number 11. Okay, this is the other one I was talking about. The source anomaly in the pirate detection array will now be displayed directly in the overview. I love this. It's a great quality of life update because it means that we can finally actually see in the overview instead of having to actually go and click on the individual anomaly. I love it. I think it's great. Number 12, the gravity trap completes its cooldown. It required the outpost owner manual confirmation to generate an nihilist well instead of doing it automatically. Now, this one I'm of a bit of a mixed mind. And the reason for this is that I like the idea that you have to go in and tap the button or activate the well from a POS owner perspective, but it also feels like we're kind of doing a disservice to some of the risk and reward that the PvP aspect of Nihilist Space brings. Because if I can make sure that I have my full fleet exactly ready to go and just start it, then it kind of takes away some of the risk because you're not giving other players a chance to find those other entrances, and then get a fleet and get going. By the time you do that, if the chances of somebody finding that well, getting a fleet, getting that fleet in, and being able to contest it just seem like they're pretty minimal. So I understand why they're doing this, and I think because a lot of people have missed their wells, especially if they happen to be during maintenance or something like that, which that was a problem when they switched the maintenance times. But again, I don't know if this is a good or bad one. We'll have to just kind of see as the meta plays out. A prompt will pop up every time you log in and have pending contracts. This is awesome. I love this. We've been asking for it for a while. Again, it feels like the devs actually listened on this one. And then finally, 14, probably the biggest one and the one that I think is going to cause on one side the most excitement and on the other the most weeping and gnashing of teeth. And that is that they have changed the way the safe logoff feature works. Now, previously, you were able to basically just warp off if you were in a big faction battleship or something like that, if you were in a safe, or if you warped in on a gate or something like that, you could hit that safe log off, and you could log off in just 5 seconds and be out of space and be out of combat. Now, the problem with this is that, obviously, if you have people hunting you or anything like that, you're basically bypassing the biggest disadvantage that battleships have, which is the long warp time. So being able to actually have them have to warp and behave normally, if you will, I think is a really not interesting. It's a really good change, I think. It's going to force people to be more conservative, to actually, instead of just using a log off trick or something like that to jump out of a dangerous situation, to actually pilot and fly their ships. And from a PvP perspective, I think it's is going to be interesting. It's going to make people want to use more scanners, tackle, things like that. And again, just play the game the way it's really meant to be played. Now, I think that the biggest thing that's going to be interesting on this is to see how the price of polycarb rigs change. Those are basically your align time, your inertial modifier, your agility, whatever you want to call it. And so being able to actually reduce that align time from 20 seconds to 10 seconds or 15 seconds or whatever it is, I think could be really impactful, especially for nullsec players. So I'm going to be very curious. I'm going to keep an eye on those rigs. I'm not sure what they are right now. I may try to drop it in if I have time between meetings and publishing this video. But either way, I really think this is a big change. I think it's going to be one that is going to catch a lot of people by surprise if they're not paying attention to the patch notes. So congratulations, you're watching this video. Now you know. Added combine option concerning the ship type and standing in the custom overview filtering. I think that this is going to be interesting to see how they actually implement this, because what it sounds like you can do is basically use the advanced filter tags the same way that you do here, but I don't know exactly what this means. So I'm going to be curious, and maybe there's some creative things you can do with like people in your corp or anything like that, but it sounds like they're kind of using what the advanced filter tags do, just in a overview setting. I don't know. The next two, I think they're going to be great, especially for story runners. Add the probability page to randomly drop chests. I'm guessing that this is just showing how often certain mods are going to drop from those supply chests. But again, until we get it on, I don't know. And in 17, they added an option for you to open all of your supply chests at once, which again, I think is great, especially if you've got a bunch of nanocore boxes and things like that. Being able to not have to go in and actually individually tap on those is fantastic. And then in order to reduce stress on the mining server, the mining mission progress updates every 120 seconds now in the Concord Pass. I'm not a miner, so I don't know what this is exactly talking about, but I'm guessing that it's basically saying instead of every time you finish a cycle, it updates, it's just going to update every 2 minutes. Again, I don't think that's going to be a huge issue for most people, but it might be. I don't know. Integrated rigs not being compensated, corporation flags being mismatched. All of these, I don't think it's that big of a deal. That's it for this patch update. Like I said, I think this was a really good one. I'm excited about some of the features and functions that are being available. And ultimately, it's going to be really interesting to see where kind of the direction of this goes. If you guys are still with me, I am going to be trying to do a stream, I think, of the new faction war games tomorrow. It might be Thursday. I'll put an announcement in the YouTube like banners or posts or whatever it is, so that you guys can join in on that fun. But yeah, I'm really excited. I think this is good. I think this is showing that the devs are listening to the players. They're addressing some of the feedback, some of the big pain points. Again, I think that safe logout thing is going to be huge. So I'm really looking forward to that and some of the other things that are going on. But that's it for today, guys. Thanks so much. I need to go jump onto a meeting. I hope you guys have a great day. Enjoy the updates. Enjoy the content. And fly safe. I really need to figure out a catchphrase.